So another question would be to look at some interview techniques, and I understand that this is a big subject, this is a big topic, and we're going to talk a lot about it, and it's going to take more than just maybe one question. But one specific question I had in mind is to ask you, in your personal experience and your opinion, are there some universal techniques that you can use to answer any question on the interview? So no matter what kind of question, no matter who is asking. So like any universal techniques that people could learn and be more confident about answering pretty much any question on the interview.
So universal techniques to answer any questions, right?
Now
keep in mind, as we said before, that basically there's two categories of interview questions. There's the general question, and then there's the skill question. And underneath the general question, there are the traditional interview questions, but also as well as the behavioral questions. And under the skill questions, there's the basic. I mean, the one basic is probably the wrong word to use. Foundational knowledge, but also applications of skills, right? Performance, basically. All right. So, specifically speaking, they don't overlap that much. And so chances are that the technique that you would be using, if we are looking for a universal technique, they would be at a higher level. They would be probably just how you would be interacting with the interviewer. And from that perspective, obviously that you want to make sure that when you're answering questions, you're talking to the person. You want to make sure that you're being proactive and things like that. But one thing that I think we can certainly point out is that, and actually we talked about this before in a segment for English speakers. But basically, you can call it paraphrasing. That before you try, so basically, kind of like this. When the interviewer asks a question, and then instead of you immediately answer, so don't do immediate answer, okay? Instead of first to paraphrase the interviewer, then answer. So, and this will take a little bit of practice, because sometimes you'll be like, I know exactly what this question means. Why do I need to paraphrase this question again, right? But the nice thing about paraphrasing is that you're signaling to interviewer that you understand the question. I can tell you that there are times that when the candidate's starting to answer a question, even though the candidate was very certain that he or she understands my question, but it turns out that they end up answering a different question. So if a person asks you a question and you paraphrase that question back, then you give yourself a chance to ensure that the interviewer will agree that you're trying to answer the right question, that you actually truly understand the question. Because otherwise, the things like that will come up. They'll be like, oh, so, what is, what will be questions? Like, perhaps it will be something like, say, hey, tell me about your biggest weaknesses. And then the candidate then start to go and say, oh, my biggest strength is blah, 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 blah. And you're like, wait, no, I'm not asking about your strength. I'm asking about your weakness. See, that would be the flow of the conversation, right? But otherwise, so a way of trying to ensure that you're always answering the right question would be like, oh, so tell me about your biggest weaknesses. Then you say, so you would like to know about my biggest weaknesses, right? I say, yes. So let me tell then let me tell you about what my biggest weaknesses that I have identified. Blah blah blah. Right. So by inserting that paraphrasing right before you answer the question, you give yourself a chance, one, to make sure that you tell the interviewer understands that you understand the question, but also two, gives you time to think about the answer. Right? Because even just that little amount of pause in there, it will really, it will really give you a little bit of time to respond, so that way you're not being caught off guard. Okay? And three, and this really helps, because if you answer things in the uniform approach, uniform approach guards against being caught off guard or brain freeze. Okay. So a lot of people, I mean, let me put it this way, it's not a lot of people. Chances are that when you go into an interview, especially if the interview is somewhat high pressure, usually you will come across questions that you don't know how to answer.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you come across the question you don't know how to answer, then you have to have a way of handling that. But sometimes what happens is that because you don't always practice how to handle such a situation, so when those questions come up, you have no idea how to handle them. And by paraphrasing the question uniformly, it gives you a chance to move into that handling of the unexpected situation, rather than saying having two different branches, right? If it's easy question, immediately answer. And then if it's hard question, paraphrasing. Right? So a lot of people do it this way. But, this branching makes your response slower. It makes you have to think about which way that I'm in right now. And then when you're being caught off guard, then even this particular process might be caught off guard, so it goes right out the window. So so it's better if you just employ a uniform way of answering questions.
And I can certainly recommend this technique to pretty much any English learner or people who are non-native speakers and they're also basically still learning English. I think that, in my experience, that gives you additional confidence. Then you are not just answering the question straight, or sometimes you actually get that brain freeze because you're looking for the right phrase to answer the question. So the best idea and the most simple idea is just to paraphrase the question or say something as a natural response to that question. Basically take some time to think about the answer and then come up with a good answer.
Right.
Rather than just answering it immediately and maybe making a worse impression overall, because maybe you might not know the right phrase and you might start thinking about it. And,
Now I want to bring the conversation a little bit higher level, because when we talk about techniques, a lot of time we're talking about a very detailed way of applying things. But sometimes you have to kind of understand why these techniques work in order to be able to apply it better, right? So why paraphrasing work? Okay, because a lot of time people are not, when they look at interviews, they see interviews as a way for them to get jobs. Obviously, from our perspective, it kind of makes sense. Hey, why am I going to an interview? Because I want to get a new job, or get a job. Period. Right? But it's not the perspective of the interviewer. The perspective interviewer is that they want to find a candidate that can work here, right? So what do they look for first and foremost? That's really what we need to think about. So basically, it's kind of like this, right? Interviewer or company, they're the representative of the company, they want to find the best candidate, right? and then interviewee, so you want to find the best job. Right? So it's somewhat diametrically opposed to each other, but hopefully there's a match, and then everything will be all nice and dandy, right? Now, in order for this to be a match, though, what basically we need to think about, say, what are interviewers looking for? They're looking for someone who can do the job, but also someone who can work with them. So there are very few jobs out there available is meant for independent performances. Most of the time, jobs are you'll be performing jobs as a part of a larger team.